all material bodies combine to make the world one body, a harmonious whole. So all causes combine to make destiny one harmonious cause. Even quite unsophisticated people intuit what I mean. They say, fate brought this on him. Now if brought also prescribed, so let us accept these prescriptions, just as we accept those of Asclepius. Many of them, too, are harsh, but we welcome them in the hope of health. You should take the same view of the process and completion of the design of universal nature as you do of your own health, and so welcome all that happens to you, even if it seems rather cruel, because its purpose leads to the health of the universe and the prosperity and success of Zeus. He would not bring this on anyone if it did not also bring advantage to the whole, no more than any given natural principle brings anything inappropriate to what it governs. So there are two reasons why you should be content with your experience. One is that this has happened to you, was prescribed for you, and is related to you, a thread of destiny spun for you from the first by the most ancient causes. The second is that what comes to each individual is a determining part of the welfare, the perfection, and indeed the very coherence of which governs the whole, because the complete connection and continuity. This is true of its constituent parts, and true likewise of its causes. And you do serve a something to the extent that you can, whether you fret at your lot. This is, in a sense, a destruction. Do not give up in disgust or impatience if you do not find action on the right principles consolidated into a habit in all that you do. No. If you have taken a fall, come back again, and be glad if most of your actions are on the right side of humanity, and love what you do return to. Do not come back to philosophy as schoolboy to tutor, but rather as a man with ophthalmia. Ophthalmia returns to his sponge and slave, or another to his poultice or lotion. In this way you will prove that obedience to reason is no great burden, but a source of relief. Remember too that philosophy wants only what your nature wants, whereas you were wanting something unnatural to you. Now what could be more agreeable than the needs of your own nature? This is the same way that pleasure trips us. But look and see whether there is not something more agreeable in magnanimity, generosity, simplicity, consideration, piety, and what is more agreeable than wisdom itself. When you reflect on the sure and constant flow of our faculty for application and understanding, realities are wrapped in such a veil, as it were, that several philosophers of distinction have thought them altogether beyond comprehension, while even the Stoics think them hard to comprehend, and every assent we may give to our perceptions is fallible. The infallible man does not exist. Pass, then, to the very objects of our experience. How short-lived they are, how shoddy a catamite, a whore, a thief could own them. Go on now to the characters of your fellows. it is hard to tolerate even the best of them, not to speak of one's difficulty in enduring even oneself. In all this murk and dirt, in all this flux of being, time, movement, things moved, I cannot begin to see what on earth there is to value or even to aim for. Rather the opposite. One should console oneself with the anticipation of natural release, not impatient of its delay, but taking comfort in just these two thoughts. One, that nothing will happen to me which is not in accordance with the nature of the whole. The other, what it is in my control to do nothing contrary to my God and the divinity within me. No one can force me to his offense. To what use then am I now putting my soul? Ask yourself this question. On every occasion, examine yourself. What do I now have in this part of me called the directing mind? What sort of soul do I have after all? Is it that of a child, a boy, a woman, a despot, a beast of the field, a wild animal? Here is a way to understand what sort of things the majority take to be goods. If you think of the true goods, there are wisdom, for example, self-control, justice, courage. With these in your mind, you could not give any credence to the popular saying of too many gods to make room, because it will not apply. But bearing in mind what the majority see as goods, you will hear and readily accept what the comic poet says as a fair comment. Even the majority can intuit this difference. Otherwise, this saying would not both cause offense and rejection, while at the time we take is a telling and witty comment on wealth and privileges, of luxury and fame. Go on, then, and ask whether we should value and judge as goods those things which, when we have thought of them, would properly apply to their owner, the saying, he is so rich he has no room to shit. I am made up of the casual and the material. Neither of these will disappear into nothing. Just as neither came to be out of nothing, so every part of me will be assigned its changed place in some part of the universe, and that will change again into another part of the universe, and so on to infinity. A similar sequence of change brought me into existence, and my parents before me, and so back in another infinity of regression. Nothing forbids this assertion, even if the universe is subject to the completion of cycles. Reason and the art of reasoning are faculties self-determined by their own nature and their own products. They start from the relevant premise and follow the path to the proposed end. That is why acts of reason are called right acts, signifying the rightness of the path thus followed. One should pay no attention to any of those things which do not belong to man's portion, incumbent on his as a human being. They are not demanded of man. Man's nature does not proclaim them. They are not consumptions of the nature. Therefore, they do not constitute man's end either, nor yet any means to that end. That is good. Further, if any of these things were incumbent on a man, then it would not have been incumbent on him to disdain or resist them. We would not commend the man who shows himself free from need of them. If these things were truly goods, the man who fails to press for his full share of any of them could not be a good man. But in fact, the more a man deprives himself of these or such like, or tolerates others depriving him, the better a man he is. Your mind will take on the character of your most frequent thoughts. Souls are dyed by thoughts, so dye your own with a succession of thoughts like these. For example, where life can be lived, so can a good life, but life can be lived in a palace. Therefore, a good life can be lived in a palace. Again, each creature is made in the interest of another. Its course is directed to that for which it was made. Its end lies in that to which its course is directed, and where its end is. There also for each is its benefit and its good. It follows that the good of a rational creature is community. It has long been shown that we are born for community. Or was it not clear that inferior creatures are made in the interest of the superior, and the superior in the interest of each other? But animate is superior to inanimate, and rational to the merely animate. To pursue the impossible is madness, and it is impossible for bad men not to act in character. Nothing happens to any creature beyond its own natural endurance. Another has the same experience as you, either through failure to recognize what has happened to him, or in a display of courage, he remains calm and untroubled. Strange, then, what ignorance and pretension should be stronger than wisdom. Things of themselves cannot touch the soul at all. They have no entry to the soul, and cannot turn or move it. The soul alone turns and moves itself, making all externals present to it cohere with the judgments it thinks worthy of itself. In one respect, man is something with the closest affinity to us, in that it is our duty to do good to men and tolerate them. But in so far as some are obstacles to my proper work, man joins the category of things indifferent to me, no less than the sun, the wind, a wild animal. These can impede some activity, yes, but they form no impediments to my impulse or my disposition, because here there is conditional commitment and the power of adaptation. The mind adapts and turns round any obstacle to action to serve its objective. A hindrance to a given work is turned to its furtherance. An obstacle in a given path becomes an advance. The impediment of action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.